Hey guys, how's it going? I hope you're doing well. My name is Dr. Tom LaHue and I want to welcome you to my channel. And we're going to be talking about very simple stuff here, the introduction to each type. Maybe you're new to the Enneagram, or maybe a refresher wouldn't be bad for all of us. I'll be referring back to one of the first books I ever picked up, The Wisdom of the Enneagram by Riso and Hudson. Fantastic book. And just looking through it and going back to the old faithful standards, and just reading through some of the information, and I thought, let's just go back and let's do the introduction, because maybe you're new to the Enneagram and you might have a hard time typing yourself, and hopefully a video like this will help you rule out at least maybe some of the possibilities. Like I said before, welcome to the channel. In the description below is a link to my website. I do offer coaching appointments. I know that they're kind of booked up for the next couple of weeks, but if you want to reach out to me, I'd love to meet with you. Also, I'm excited about the certificate program, the Enneagram Coaching Certificate, to try to help people learn to do essentially what I'm doing. Help people using the Enneagram as a basis to help people who sometimes we can get stuck in life and maybe be a little unbalanced in our type and not be doing so well in our relationships. And the Enneagram is a powerful tool for helping people sort of figure out who they are and what their strengths and weaknesses are and their challenges, and then hopefully not be so limited by their personality type. So if you're interested in the certificate program, the information's on the website, and I'd love for you to sign up and be a part of one of our cohorts. The exciting stuff. Thank you again to my patrons. I really appreciate your support as well. So let's jump into the information today. So when you think about the Enneagram, we go around the dial, and most of us start with number 1. And when I think about number 1, or type 1, I think about the proverbial dad energy. Let's get it right. We're not eating our dessert until we eat our vegetables. We're not, going to go on vacation until all the work's done. And let's step up to the plate and be responsible. Let's take a look at what our authors say about type 1, the perfectionist, the reformer, the owner of the truth, a principled idealistic type. Yes, idealistic. 7s, 1s, and 4s are all idealists in the sense of things could be better. With 7s, it's more about the experience. With 4s, it's the environment and the relationships and the how the setting feels and all of that. And with 1s, it's a little more black and white. I think with 1s, it's like these towels could be folded better. These dishwasher could be sorted more properly. The car could be cleaner, and you could be more on time. And so idealism, that's a good thing, but obviously it's going to, lead to anger, which is the sin of the 1. Frustration when things aren't the way they're supposed to be, when people aren't doing what, they should do, or even against oneself, that I didn't get it right, or I made a mistake. And a lot of that anger could be imposed on themselves. Always think of 8s, having a Rottweiler. They could just attack at any time. The German Shepherd that's ready to pull on the sock and argue and debate and challenge. And I think of 1s as having sort of the Rottweiler that lives in their head that often attacks them. The angry parent voice within their head that scolds them and corrects them, so that they don't necessarily need an external scolding or an external correction, because it's all right there in their head. Must be lovely to live with that. I think all of us have a little bit, of experience with that, but I'm sure not near to the extent that a type 1 does. And I imagine most type 1s are a little bit bewildered when they see people doing foolish, reckless things that, are irresponsible. They must think, don't you have a guide in your head that tells you not to do that stuff? And it can be really helpful for you as a type 1 to learn about the Enneagram and realize, oh, not everybody shares that, that component, at least to the degree in which you share. By the way, when you see 8s, 9s, and 1s, particularly 8s and 1s, when you see them angry, particularly 1s, just remember it's not the end of the world. You're seeing an anger type getting angry. You're seeing somebody who has the sin of anger displaying that. And don't panic, because, for you who's not a type 1, when you see a 1 getting angry, you might think, oh my goodness, they have such a temper, or they're so aggravated all the time. Well, they're giving into their impulse, and we all do it in our own types, okay? So just recognize that you might want to be a little bit more patient, and by all means try not to be critical of them. They already have a Rottweiler living in their head, that is highly critical and demanding of them, and anything you say will just add on to their overly critical perception of themselves. So you want to be cautious. I think also you want to be cautious when you criticize 2s as well. They're very soft, loving people that want to be pleasing and appreciated, and it can be very damaging to 1s and 2s. I think if we're overly critical, we might come across overly critical with them. Okay, I'm not saying that they're that they can't handle it. I'm just saying every type has its challenges. Okay, let's just leave it at that. 1s are ethical and conscientious. I agree. Although I've met some 1s that they say they want to know what the rules are so that they know how to get around them. And maybe that person was the reformer, the sexual 1, the counter 1. I don't know, but I thought that was interesting that, when I think of 1s, I think of the proverbial manager that's going to show up, make sure everything's done right, do things the right way, be responsible, check it off the list. They wake up with the mindset of what needs to be done today. They're not necessarily thinking, oh, I want to do this, and oh, I want to go get that, and oh, I want to have this experience. They're much more down to earth. Do what needs to be done. Is this really what we need to be doing right now? Let's focus on the essentials. Let's get those right. Let's do those things the way they're supposed to be done. And at the end of the day, and then you can rest. At the end of the day, then I've known 1s that are very lighthearted, very strong line to 7, that almost seem like 7s. But I can't know what's going on in their head. And they may look on the outside very upbeat, playful, energetic, positive, but there's no telling, how much oneness might be going on inside their head, scolding themselves and all of that. And I don't think 7s, I know that 7s aren't like that. Okay, so a strong sense of right and wrong, yes. And that's a gut type. So it's internal, the right and wrong. And it may not, and you would think, oh, 1s are always going to follow the rules. Not so much. Like I said before, the person I'm thinking of that, wants to know the rules so they can get around them. If you know what's right or what's best, and you're the owner of the truth, for example, when you come across guidelines or regulations that are out of date that need to be updated, I think a 1 might have the tendency to say, what, this is not the right way to do this. This is not the most efficient way to do this. This is not the correct way to do this. We're going to do it like this instead. I would imagine that 1s, would like to go with their gut on those decisions, although there may be some kind of challenge in skirting the rules or skirting the regulations to do what they know. I'm sure some 1s are stronger on that than others, but I think when you think about following the regulations, I think much more like a 6. And 6s can look like 1s, especially the social 6, can look like a 1. But I think they're going to be much more tied to the regulations and the procedures than a 1 would be. I think a 1 might think this is not the best way to do this. This is not the most efficient. This is not going to get it done. And so we're going to bypass this written rules in order to get it done and get it done efficiently and in the right way, or the more updated way. I think 1s are going to trust their gut a little bit more than a 6. A 6 is going to want to know, what do you think? Does this make sense? And they're going to want maybe that affirmation more than a 1 might. A 1 might not need people's affirmation. They may just know intuitively that this is what needs to be done. All right, so they could be teachers and crusaders. I think mentors. Ones could be very good at mentoring others, striving to improve things, but afraid of making a mistake. Again, you got that Rottweiler living in your head that, will tear you up if you make a mistake. 6s and 1s both, I think, have a real hard time with the idea of making a mistake. Well-organized, orderly, fastidious, high standards, but can become very critical and perfectionistic. In a true oneness, without 2-wing and without 9-wing, 1s, could be a little bit of a hanging judge that, might say, if I help them, they'll never learn to help themselves. So 1s need that 2-wing to soften them, make them a little more kind-hearted, a little bit more understanding, a little more gracious, not so rigid in their thinking, critical in their thinking. And then they need the 9-wing to tell them to chill out a little bit, that they can't fix everything, that some things are beyond their control, and they need to lean on that 9 to take other people's perspectives, for example. A 1 has a very strong perspective of the way things should be, and they might need to lean into that 9, chill out a little bit, okay? You know yourself, if you need to. All right, so they typically have problems with repressed anger and impatience. Repressed because it's not good to be angry. It's not good to show your anger, although anger leaks out, right? It leaks out whether you want it to or not. People can pick up on it. And again, if you're living with a 1 and you see that angry face, try not to panic. They don't want to come across as angry. They don't want to be angry. It's in their type, okay? So have a little graciousness and a little compassion. We all want to do that. We all want to have a little more grace and compassion with. At best, 1s are wise, discerning, realistic, noble, as well as morally heroic. Yes, I have a deep respect for 1s. I have a pretty strong line to 1 myself, and as a counter 7, a social 7, and I really do appreciate 1s. I think 7s and 1s could be good together. Like, I think of a lot of examples. Some of them don't come to my mind right now, but a lot of examples, like maybe Abbott and Costello, or Lucy and Ricky, and kind of these are old examples, I know. All right, let's talk about type 2, the helper, the giver, the pleaser. Okay. Type 2. 2s, man, they are like magnets. They draw you in. Now we're moving away from the anger group to the worth and value group. So 2s, 3s, and 4s are all dealing with this question, where does my value come from? And 2s sort of figure out or solve that problem by, if I'm helpful to others and I'm needed by others and I'm useful to others, then I have value to those people. So I have value because of my usefulness to other people and my connections to other people, and all that makes me a person of value. And again, it's not necessarily a cognitive thought. I don't think 2s are out there thinking, what do I need to do to make myself valuable to people? I think it's just in their programming, and it may not be conscious thinking, but I think you could say it like this: 2s feel most valuable when they're helpful, when they're focused on other people. And it's kind of like, I know what I'm here on earth to do. It's to be of help and service to people. And again, remember, their sin is pride. So you might ask them, well, what do you need? How could we help you? And that's where they're going to be uncomfortable. They may not know what they need, or they may not be necessarily, the spotlight or the camera's not on them. So they want to put the camera on others, which feels great, to have all that attention lavished on you. It's going to attract people to them. At least in the initial phases, it will attract people to them. But to know what they need can be difficult for 2s. I always think of the 2s as being the lady that's, dying of cancer, and the doctor says, I'm sorry, Cindy, but there's nothing more we can do. And the 2 leans over, pats the doctor's hand, and says, that's all right, doctor. Don't worry about me. I know where I'm going. I'll be fine. It's the Lord's trying to teach you a lesson. It's that kind of, I'm here to help you, doctor. I know I'm dying of cancer, and I know that, my life is almost over and I'm terminal, but I made these brownies for you, and the good Lord, is with me, and he wants you, it's like I'm here to teach you or help you in some way, to give you hope or to challenge your belief system, doctor. And that's wonderful. I'm not saying that's not wonderful. I'm just saying, can you see the pride in that? That I'm the patient, but I'm here to help the doctor. Again, I always think of twos as like the missionaries, right? And all the rest of us are the orphan children. They're here to take care of us. And when the orphan children say, well, what can we do for you? The missionary is not necessarily comfortable with that arrangement, that one down position, you might say, the one down position. And if you're a believer, if you're a Christian and you're a two, just remember, Jesus often put himself in the one down position. He goes to the woman at the well and he says, can you give me a drink? And so, if your goal is connection, you don't always have to be the one serving in order to have the connection. You can also be the one served and ask for help yourself, which is not easy for twos. I think twos would feel selfish if they're asking for help themselves. Okay, or stating their needs or investigating their needs. Even investigating their needs could maybe be difficult for a two. All right, so they're caring and interpersonal. Interpersonal means they care about relationships. They are kind of like in a web of relationships, and they really want to be at the center of that. And I don't mean that they want to take over everything. I just mean I think that they want to be connected to everybody. They want to feel that connection to everybody, that everybody loves me and I love everybody and we're all connected. And sixes, the self-preservation six often looks like a two. The friendly six, you might say, who wants to be connected because of fear. The world's a scary place, and sixes want to be connected because if I help others, then they'll be there to help me. And twos, I don't think it's about fear. It's about, I feel valuable and important if I'm connected to people, if I have those open lines of connection with people. Now, that can be very frustrating if you're a two, if for whatever reason somebody important in your life is shutting down that connection. They're building a wall or they're withdrawing from you, and that can be very difficult for a two. You might see a two overcompensate to try to gain that connection and go overboard a little bit, and then maybe at some point get frustrated and just think, there's either something wrong with me or there's something wrong with that person, and I just need to write them off because there's something wrong with them. That could very well be the way a two might think about it. Twos are empathetic. Yes, empathetic. Empathetic means they sense people's needs. Okay, now, I think this is interesting. A two may not be able to know their own needs all the time so well, but they have this unique ability to know what other people need. I mean, sometimes twos, they tell me that they can walk into a room and they can just kind of sense what people need. And they're often drawn to the person, that is important in their mind, that has a need, somebody that they feel is valuable or that they feel that they could help in some way. And they often sense what people need even before sometimes the people themselves know what they need. And again, notice how ironic that is, because then that same gift, that same ability, not so easy to return back on themselves. Just like nines. Nines can see everybody's perspective, but they have a hard time with their own perspective. Sixes can solve everybody's problem, but sometimes they have a hard time feeling confident solving their own problem. Twos, they can pick up everybody's needs, but they sometimes have a hard time sorting out their own. Warm-hearted, sincere. Yes, I believe that. Friendly, generous, self-sacrificing. True. Of course, that push to an extreme could maybe look like martyrdom, which doesn't sound positive for the martyr or the people that are experiencing living with a martyr. Self-sacrificing. Yes. I mean, everybody appreciates that, right? Everybody appreciates somebody who's sacrificing their own needs for others. But the reality is twos are people too. They can only be pushed so far, and then they start to break down because they're just humans. I think of that song, I'm Only Human. I don't remember who sang it, maybe Christina Perri, but that song, Only Human, listen to that. That is a two. Okay, that's two stuff right there. I can be who you need me to be. I can whatever, but then at some point, I'm stretched beyond my ability to be able to deliver on all these needs. And so they could be pushed to what might look like martyrdom. They can also be sentimental, flattering. The idea is like, I'm going to shine the spotlight on you. You're wonderful. You're great. And everybody's attracted to that. Not everybody, but most of us, are attracted to that. Somebody who's a cheerleader or somebody who is lavishing all this attention on us draws you in. It draws you in. And that's what I think it means by flattery, what I think the authors mean by flattery. I don't think twos, necessarily out there flattering people, although maybe some, but I think it's more like the focus of the attention is on others, on their needs, on their agenda, let me put it this way. A two could sit down with 2 or 3 friends and over coffee and never really reveal anything about themselves. We'll talk about vacations, they'll talk about kids, they'll talk about their children in school, they'll talk about their marriages. And a two, if you are a two, just kind of reflect back. Does this often happen to you? You get to the end of that lunch meeting or that coffee meeting, and you've heard everything about them. You've heard everything about their kids and about their marriage and about their vacation and their problems and their health crisis. Did you feel the same inclination to share about yourself? And again, maybe part of it could be pride, that I don't necessarily want to reveal the flaws and the failures, or the challenges in my family. I want my family to look, like especially if you're a 2-wing 3, I want my family to look good. I think twos can end up being like sponges. They take in all this information from others, but maybe not necessarily reveal much about themselves. Now, if you do, great. Okay. I'm sure that some of you will be like, I disagree with you, Tom. Okay. All right. I'm sure. But I know in my own experience, twos will shine the attention on others, and they will take in all this information about others. And just because they legitimately are wanting to know and help people, they may not necessarily get a chance to talk much about themselves and their story. Okay. Flattering and people pleasing. Yes. A good book for twos, of course, would be Boundaries. 2s and 9s probably, especially 9-wing 1s. But also the Disease to Please. I forget who wrote it. It's over there on my shelf, but just do an Amazon search on The Disease to Please. And if you find that you are maybe a little bit over pleasing for people, I've got a video I think on here when loving you is killing me, or when pleasing you is killing me, or something. I don't remember what videos I made. Okay, so they are driven to be close to others. They often do things for others in order to be needed. Again, that may not be a cognitive thought. I want to be needed by them. It may not be necessarily that you're thinking it in that way. They typically have problems taking care of themselves and acknowledging their own needs. At best, healthy twos are unselfish, altruistic. That means they love people without, strings attached at best. The lowest level of a 2 is the manipulator. And so at the highest level, their love is very altruistic, and they bring love into the world. The very thing they're looking for, love and connection, is what 2s bring. 1s are looking for order and structure, and of course that's what they bring. And goodness, order, structure, goodness, those kinds of things, and that's what healthy 1s bring. 2s are looking for connection, love, value, worth, and that's what they bring to others, that sense of love and value. They have unconditional love for themselves and others when they're in their highest level. Great. Okay, so let's talk about type 3s, the achiever, the winner. Now, okay, so the 1 is sort of the energy of the dad, the 2 is sort of the energy of the mom, and if you're a guy and a 2, I don't mean that in a negative way, but it's that nurturing energy of let me take care of you, let me help you, let me fix that, let me be there with you through this, which we tend to associate with, okay. So number 3, the winner, the achiever, I think of, let's keep going around the dial, is the oldest child. The overachiever. Look at me. Look what I can do. Look at my label. Look at how bright my teeth are and how winning my smile is. 3-wing 2, the charmer. Look how charming I am. You can't not like me. 3s, they're observing the world. Okay, they're observing the world, and they're comparing themselves with everybody, and they're observing the world, and they look for what are the most admirable traits. What are the traits that people admire? What are the traits that people, that make people get ahead in life? And then they sort of put on those traits on their exterior. They put on those traits, and they become what others most admire. So 2s on one side of the line, are shining the attention out. 3s are sort of putting the attention on. They're on themselves. They're looking out at the world, and they're looking at what people admire, and then they want to emulate those best characteristics of what people admire. And it depends on the groups that they're in. If they're in sports and that, or if they're in business, or if they're in modeling or something, they're going to want to emulate the best of what they see. I've had 3s tell me that that they like sports, and maybe there's a sport that they've never really invested much time in. Let's just say basketball. Okay, so they play basketball like I play basketball once a year or something, once every 3 years, and then they have opportunity to meet a basketball coach, and they have a chance to play with a professional basketball player or a college basketball player or a coach, and in their mind they're like, I need to show this coach that I'm as good as he is. I need to show this athlete that I'm as good as they are or better than them. And there's that drive within a 3 to achieve, to win, to go after the next goal. A 2, needs a 3 because they need to focus a little bit of that attention on themselves and what are their goals, and it's okay to have, take care of my own needs, and I don't have to just make life about everybody else. I can focus a little bit on myself. 2s need that one wing. I'm back at 2s for a second. 2s need that one wing to make sure they're doing the right thing, not just the thing that will help them be connected to people. 3s, they need a 2-wing because they need to focus the attention out on others and not just on perfecting themselves. And they also need the 4-wing to know their internal compass a little better. Because if you're just focused on what do I need to become to be the most admired person, where's you in all of that? Where's your heart in all of that? And the 3 needs to sometimes press beneath that surface into the inner man or the inner person to really discover what they value and what is most important to them. Okay, not just what is going to win the trophy or win people's admiration. All right, so they are adaptable. Now that sounds positive, doesn't it? Adaptable. What's the negative side of adaptable? I think of adaptable could be a negative trait, because what if you're adapting to an environment that is not a good environment? What if the people admire things that are negative? What if people in your circle are rebellious and awful and terrible and criminals? Adaptable could sound a little bit like a chameleon, like you're going along with what people expect or want or admire, whether those expectations are positive or negative. Now, contrast that with a 1 who wants to be right, who wants to do good. You can see where a 1 could get frustrated with a 3 if they think the 3 is adapting too much to people's expectations in order to get ahead. You can see where 8s could be very upset with a 3. Okay, let's keep going. Success-oriented. Again, that sounds great. Success-oriented. Who doesn't want to be successful? Question though, successful, who defines what success is? Well, your peer group, your group that you are associating with. I mean, your country, your nation, your media, your culture is defining success often, and a 3 might not question, if they don't have a strong link to 4, they might not question, when I get to the end of all of this success, will I really be successful in what is most valuable to me? You might have all of the outward symbols of success, but will that really feel successful when you get to the end? You have to let it go. You have to leave it with others. And what do you really gain from all of this admiration of others? There may be something more to live for than that. Okay. They are self-assured, attractive and charming. Okay. And maybe it's not always in the sense of attractive like they're beautiful people, although chances are they are, or that's at least a priority for them, more so than maybe some of the other types. But attractive could look like, I have an attractive spouse, or I have an attractive job, or I have an attractive resume, or I have an attractive office, or a title. And so attractive could look different depending on what you think is attractive. It could be athletic. I associate in my mind being athletic with being attractive. And so I think we need to broaden our understanding of maybe a little bit of what attractive is, because it's in the eyes of the beholder, right? Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. So once they define what is attractive, then you might see a 3 moving toward that, which is probably hard for 3s to understand, that the rest of us could say, yes, that's attractive, but I'm not really going to work to become that. That's probably got to be difficult for 3s to understand that, yes, I do agree that it would be more attractive to have abs, to be muscular, to have hair. I believe it would be more attractive to have a new car, to drive around in a new car. But am I really going to put in the effort, or the discipline to attain those things? And my priorities are different. I don't necessarily value whatever you get from being attractive. That's probably got to be hard for 3s to wrap their mind around, that they might tend to look at the rest of us like we're sheep or followers. And they're not going to be sheep, they're going to be lions, they're going to be champions, and the rest of us are settling. And, we don't have the hunger that they have, the drive, the determination. And, all of those things, I think we all agree, are admirable. Sometimes 9s get into a little bit of problem, when they spend a lot of time around 3s, because 9s have that line to 3, and they start thinking, I need to be like that. I need to have that drive. Why don't I have that drive and that determination? 9s do have a drive, but it's not toward the same things that 3s are driven toward. And 9s tend to fuse, with whoever they're with, and so... Okay, we'll talk about 9s when we get to 9s, but I think back to 3s, I think it could be a little bit confusing to 3s why the rest of us can admire, moving ahead or being successful or being attractive or being athletic or whatever it is, or being educated, but then not necessarily have the determination and the discipline to reach that goal. That's got to be bewildering to a 3s. Just like to 1s, if you know what's right, why aren't you doing what's right? To 3s, if you know what success is, then why aren't you driven towards success? Ambitious, competent, and energetic. They also can be status conscious and highly driven. Again, driven in our culture, in American culture, sounds like a positive thing. I'm a driven, determined, busy, goal-oriented. Okay, all of that sounds very positive on the surface, but of course there's a dark side and a downside to that, right? Another way to think about driven is you might think of cattle. You drive a herd of cattle. If you go back to the Bible, right, Jesus drives out demons. He asks his disciples to follow him. He never drives his disciples or drives, the crowds. He leads them, but he doesn't drive them. Driven, I would just challenge you to think of it like this. We can all see what you're driven toward. Okay, you're driven toward success. You're driven toward achievement. You're driven toward your goals. That looks very admirable, but flip it backwards and let me ask you, what are you driven away from? What is it that is so repulsive, that is so painful, that you are fleeing from in hot pursuit of these goals? And that's where the Enneagram, gives you that answer: worth, value, and shame. If I don't achieve these things, then who am I? If I don't accomplish this, if I don't look great, if I'm not charming, if I'm not admirable, and I'm not all these best characteristics, then what would I be? I would just be ordinary. And ordinary is unacceptable. It's shameful. So we see what you're driven toward, but what are you driven away from? It's a very powerful thought, and it's a good thought for all of us on the Enneagram to consider. Because, we can all see what we're running toward, or others can see it, but it's a good question to think about, what are we running from? All right, so they can be over concerned about their image. Image is your external, your persona, your mask, all right? They can be a little bit over concerned about how they're coming across to others, which, look at the flip side of that, a little bit under concerned as to, their actual growth and development internally. And so I do a lot of appointments with people, and I'll have to be honest, I don't do a lot of appointments with threes, which is odd, isn't it? Because aren't threes always trying to improve themselves? Yet, the question one might ask is, are they trying to improve themselves internally? Externally, sure. Let me take another course on how to move ahead and how to be more successful and how to reach my goals and how to network and all of those external things. Whiten my teeth but what about pausing to do internal work that people can't see? That's where I'm saying I don't see a lot of appointments with threes. So if you're a three, make an appointment, okay? Let's work on the inside too. What else we got here? Workaholics, competitive. Threes at their best are self-accepting. What does that mean? They're going against their shame, right? Self-accepting. I'm okay the way I am. Now let's start from that point of view. If I were truly okay the way I am, in other words, if my cup was already full, would I still feel so driven to attain that which I'm trying to attain? That's a powerful thought. Because it looks great that you're chasing after this goal, but could you live without it? If you can't live without it, then does that really make you strong? Is that really a strength? Are you stronger than I am because you can't live without attaining something? You would say to me as a 7, when I think I need to buy 14 different colored versions of the same thing because I am a 7 and I need the one I don't have, like Ariel, you would say that's ridiculous. That's foolish. And I get that. And we'll talk about 7s when we get to 7. But I think it's a helpful thought, for you as a 3 to consider, would I not be okay if I was just, if I didn't reach this goal, if I didn't accomplish this? Can I accept myself the way I am? And if you can't, that's something worth thinking about. And that's the shame and value issue, okay? They can be very authentic when they're healthy. Everything seems, and everything they seem to be. When they're healthy, they could become everything they seem to be. In other words, look beneath the surface, right? They might seem to be better than they actually are. There's more on the outside than they've developed on the inside. They're imitating the best character traits that they see, but internally they may not necessarily know who they are, just like a 9. It's an interesting thought. They can be role models who inspire others. Yes, when threes are very healthy, they look like a 6. They go from being the most valuable player on the team to being, the captain of the team. Instead of, I need to be the salesperson of the year for 20 years straight. What does that get you? Probably a lot of envy and jealousy by the other salespeople. Why not rather become more valuable by mentoring the other salespeople so that they can become successful? That will make you more valuable to your team. And a healthy 3 will realize that I'm more valuable if I'm mentoring others rather than always just winning myself. Instead of being the most valuable player, 3s accept the role of team captain or head cheerleader even. Okay, and again, 3s need both the 2-wing and the 4-wing to be balanced. All right, let's talk about the 4. The individualist, the romantic, and I think there's the epicure. No, is that a 7? I don't remember. I don't ever use that term. Epicure. It sounds like I'm getting my nails done. All right, so the 4, the individualist. Again, this is in the worth group. And if I'm ordinary, then there's a problem. Think like that. 2s, 3s, and 4s are all dealing with, I'm different than everybody else. 2s, I'm caring, I'm loving, I'm nice, I'm kind, I'm helpful. I'm not like everybody else. Other people, are sometimes cold and calloused and mean and not nice and don't treat others well. I'm a 2. Okay, and then 3s. 3s, I'm not like everybody else. I'm a leader. I'm an innovator. I'm a winner. I'm an achiever. I'm a most valuable player. Everybody else are sheep and they're not disciplined like I am. They're not goal oriented. They don't have the hunger, the drive that I have. And then 4s. 4s, you can see it a little bit more clearly that they have a problem with ordinariness. A lot of the types want to be ordinary, which is, again, got to be bewildering. Again, let's go back to 3 for a second. The thing 3s are seeking is what they bring. 3s are seeking, achievement of goals, winning, accomplishing, being all that you can be, doing all that you can do. And again, when they're healthy, they help me do all I can do. They help me realize that I could have some goals in my life. All right? They inspire and motivate others. 4s, they might be the most obvious that they have a problem with ordinary. Again, a lot of types I think are very comfortable with ordinary. 9s, for example, maybe some 6s, maybe 1s, they're going to just wear the clothes that are hanging on the rack without thought, without thinking, I need to stand out in some way. No, I don't want to stand out in any way. I want to blend in. I want to fit in. I want to belong. I don't want to draw unnecessary attention to myself. 6s don't want to draw unnecessary attention to themselves because that makes you a target. 9s don't want to draw unnecessary attention to themselves because it makes them uncomfortable. 1s are doing the right thing and blending in, right? And so 4s, if I'm ordinary, then I'm replaceable. If I'm replaceable, then I have no value. If everybody is wearing the exact same clothes and everybody looks the same and everybody does the same kind of job, then what value do I have? I don't stand out in any way. If I don't stand out in some way, then I am replaceable. And if I'm replaceable, then I don't have any intrinsic value. And of course, to you value types, remember, every person has value, whether they stand out or whether they've accomplished anything. Walk through an infant nursery and look at the little babies who don't stand out, who haven't done anything noteworthy except being born, which is probably the greatest thing, you ever do. It's what your mom does, really. Sometimes I get off subject. Okay. All of those infants, who would question their value? Every one of them is precious, precious, precious. And precious value doesn't go away simply because you age, all right? It's inherent in your DNA. You have the thumbprint of God on you, right? God breathed into us the breath of life. So you have inherent value whether you stand out or are notable in any way. 4s have a hard time with this. So they might go about trying to figure out, where their value comes from, what it is about them that makes them stand out, what it is about them that makes them different. Of course, the dark side of that is they might not feel like they really ever belong, because to belong would mean you blend in and lose yourself, right? And so they don't want to blend in and lose themselves. They want to fit in, but they don't want to blend in. They don't want to just lose themselves into the group, because they want to know who they are. And that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. And again, 3s and 5s really need that forewing, because 3s could very easily be like the chocolate Easter bunny that doesn't have a core or doesn't know their core. And so they need to get in touch with their core being. I always think of the 3 and the 4 as like the M&M, right? The outside polished, shiny. What color do you want me to be? Look at my label. But then the inside of that M&M being the dark, unformed, bitter, sweet, chocolate, and that's kind of 4-ish. 4s could feel a little unformed, unfinished, a little bittersweet, a little, they're okay with the darker, more bitter things of life. They may not necessarily, really want to come across as polished. They may love things that are a little bit broken and seeing the beauty in that brokenness, and may themselves feel a little broken. Particularly the 4-wing 5, right? Because that 4-wing 5 needs to learn to lean more on that 3. And 5s, of course, need a 4, because 5s could be all about the facts and statistics and never really be in touch with their own inner voice or their own inner intuition that the 4 could help them with. So the 4, the romantic, introspective type. Introspective, they're looking inward. What do I think? How do I feel about this? What, is my inner compass telling me? That would be great for 3s. It'd be great for 5s. It'd be great for all of us, but particularly those 2 right next to them. 4s are self-aware. Okay, that sounds good, doesn't it? Self-aware. Self-aware. I know what I think about this. I know how I feel about this. That's a very positive way of saying that. There's kind of a negative connotation to being self-aware. May not necessarily be other-aware. Like, how am I coming across to others? Sensitive. Oh, that sounds good too, doesn't it? Sensitive. But of course, there's the dark side to being overly sensitive. Like, I think of 4s having a very wide barn door for taking in anything negative about themselves, construing a message and twisting it so that they must mean something negative about me. You could give a compliment to a 4, and within a couple of moments, they might turn that compliment around and into something negative about themselves. Not that you're being negative to them, but they tend to look at things. You remember, they're an idealist. Where does the attention of a 1 go? Their eye goes to what's off. If all the towels are folded except for this shelf, the 1's going to see what's not folded correctly. So when 4s, being an idealist, when you put them in an environment, in a context, okay, in a room of decorations, or in a relationship, or you give them a sentence that is designed to say something positive about them, where does their attention go? It's going to go to what is off. The focus of their attention is going to go on, what exactly did you mean by that when you said such and such? Or why exactly is that item placed on the wall the way it's placed? Is that really the best? Is that really, communicating the feeling that we want in this room? So again, the open barn door for taking in the negative message could be difficult for a 4 to live with, is they tend to turn things. You remember their sin is envy, right? I forgot to mention the sin of the 3 is deceit. I'm not very good at this. I'm not very good at keeping my order, right? I'm a 7. It's lucky that I've gotten this far, right? So the sin of the 3 is deceitfulness, and they sometimes believe the lie that the clothes make the man, right? 4s, the sin is envy, and it's kind of this idea that everybody else is fine being ordinary. but I just can't be. Everybody else is fine, working a 9-to-5 job and living in a small little city and never venturing out to experience the world or the wonders of the world. And I just can't be like that. I can't, settle. I can't settle. There's something about me that is off, that is different, that makes me, and again, 4s often come across the opposite way, like they're better than others. And I know 4s probably have a hard time grasping that thought, that 4s, just like 2s, can't imagine that they come across manipulative. They think they're being manipulated by everybody else. Their kindness is being manipulated and taken advantage of. 4s, they themselves, I think, feel like everybody else is given a better deal than they are. They've been given the hand that, they have to figure out what to do with this hand they're played. But they tend to come across as though, they're more put together than we are. We all share our sins with everybody else. If you're around 4s, an unhealthy 4 or average healthy 4 for a while, you might start to feel like there's something wrong with you. And they might make you, you might start feeling envious yourself. Okay. So, romantic, introspective, self-aware, sensitive, reserved, and quiet. I don't know if I agree with the quiet thing. Perhaps, maybe quiet in, they're kind of wondering to themselves silently why things are the way they are, why what was said the way it was said, and that kind of thing. And again, sometimes with 4s, you may feel like you're walking on eggshells with a 4 because of that tendency to have the open barn door for negative information and critical of themselves. You may say something positive or something you intend to be ubiquitous. Is that the right word? Meaning I don't intend any kind of challenge or grievance when I say this, but it is taken by the 4 as an insult. It's taken as a criticism because that barn door is open to take in all the negative. And you may start to feel like, gosh, I got to be so careful with what I say, because even when I say something, I don't mean anything harm. They take it in a negative way. Realize that's within the 4. It's not necessarily the people interacting with the 4. It's within the 4 to take it in a condemning way. What I mean is, the 4 walks in and is wearing a yellow t-shirt, and you might say, are you going to wear that shirt to the, and you might just mean, you don't usually wear a yellow shirt. I've never seen that shirt before. You might mean it in a completely non-judgmental way. Are you going to wear that shirt to the concert? Why? What do you mean? And again, it might be just taken as you don't like this, you don't approve of this, you don't accept this, you don't think this looks good. And you might think, no, I didn't mean anything by that. I didn't mean negative, but it is taken as negative because of this tendency within 4s to take things, have a wide door for negative. Okay. Reserved and quiet. They are self-revealing. Again, that sounds very positive. But there may be negative in that maybe we don't want to know what's going on or what you think or what you feel. Maybe you should have kept those comments to yourself. 7s can be very oversharing, all right? And so I know as a 7 that I deal with sometimes oversharing. Emotionally honest, good, and personal. But they can be moody and self-conscious. Self-conscious. What did you mean by that? Why are you saying that about me? Feel like you jabbed them with a knife, or you stabbed them with your words, but you weren't intending to. And again, you might feel like, gosh, I got to be so careful, Withholding themselves from others. I think the thinking is, if you really cared, then you would come after me. So I'm going to back away, or I'm going to sabotage this relationship a little bit I'm going to tell you self-revealing. I'm going to tell you some dark thing about myself or some challenging fact about myself or some way I'm thinking that may not be in line with the social norms. I'm going to sabotage just a little bit, and I'm going to see if that's too much for you. And if you can't handle all that I am, then we should just know that now and be done with this friendship or this relationship. And if you really care, then you'll stick with me through this test. And so 4s might test people a little bit. 6s do it too, in their own way. But 4s might test people a little bit to see, are you going to give up on me if I say this out loud, or if I reveal this fact about myself? Are you going to turn against me? And if I were to back away from you, would you notice? Would you care? Again, hopefully you can see the value questions in this. If I were to scratch you and move away from you, will you just abandon me like everybody else, or will you pursue me? It's a different way of addressing the same issue that 2s and 3s are addressing. Where does my worth and value come from? And if there were some flaw in me, would you abandon me? So the 3 is kind of the oldest child. Look at what I accomplished. Think of the 4 as being the other child, okay? That's probably the best way to say that too. Not second born or whatever, but just the other child, the other one in the family that, well, what can I do? Where do I fit? What makes me special? I can't do the same approved, admirable things the older sibling can do. So what is it about me? What's my thing? Is it music? Is it art? Is it drama? Is it, what is it? And that question, what is it, I think is a question that could plague 4s. They know they're different, okay? They know they're different, but they don't know what it is necessarily that's making them different. And realize our culture might have a lot of ways of answering that for you that aren't necessarily the best, and 4s could maybe end up in trouble, because they'll let somebody else say, oh, I know why you're different. It's because, and then they might try to fill in the blanks. And a 4 might investigate those, other options for their life. Well, maybe I'm different because I'm an alcoholic, or maybe, and I just don't know that yet because I haven't tried alcohol. So let me try it and see if that's what it is that makes me different. Or I'm different because, I have some disorder or some behavioral issue. I have some kind of label that I don't know what it is yet, but I need to find out. So I'm going to go to a person and find out what it is, that makes me not fit in or not feel like I fit in. Okay, and again, the obvious question that we could all ask ourselves is, maybe you're just a 4 feeling 4 things. Maybe you're just a 4 feeling 4 impulses. Again, go back to my 7-ness. When I walk into a store and I see 27 guitars that I want all of them. I'm a glutton, right? I'll get them all. I want the red one, I want the blue one, Is there something wrong with me, or should I go to someone to find out what my problem is? Or perhaps I'm just a 7 feeling 7 stuff. I'm Ariel, I'm surrounded by my collection, but I want that one thing I don't have. I'm just a 7 feeling 7 impulses. Could it be that simple? Okay. They could come across moody and self-conscious, self-focused, self-conscious, okay? Withholding themselves from others due to feeling vulnerable and defective. Withholding themselves, maybe creating distance. 4-wing 5s probably even more so, because 5s love their space, right? Defective, and also feel disdainful and exempt from ordinary ways of living. Remember, ordinary. I can't be ordinary. Ordinary means replaceable. So I need to live in a way that's extraordinary. I need to dress extraordinary. I need to like music that's extraordinary. I need to eat a diet that's extraordinary. Now, this could get exhausting, right? I mean, it could be exhausting to be a 2, serving everybody. It could be exhausting to be a 3, goals, 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 goals. I got to have the most prestigious job, the most prestigious car. That could be exhausting. It could be exhausting being a 4. And again, we see what you're running after. What are you running away from? That is such a powerful thought. It can be exhausting having to be extraordinary all the time. And again, remember, you're going to be extraordinary. So how are you going to come across to the rest of us, right? But what is driving it? Envy. Everybody else is just okay being ordinary. And a lot of times ordinary is fine. You know, I mean, you go to the store, you pick up a pair of Levi's. That's like, or Wranglers even. That's like the most ordinary pair of pants a guy could wear. It's probably what I'm wearing right now, right? Ordinary. They're ordinary for a reason, because they fit and they're fine and they don't stand out. And a lot of us are okay with things that are ordinary. It must be exhausting to feel like I can't be ordinary, especially if I can't be ordinary in any way. You know, my hair has to be extraordinary, my makeup has to be extraordinary, my clothing has to be extraordinary, my music styles, my diet. This has got to be exhausting. And here's the thing, you know, the Enneagram helps you see it doesn't. Maybe it's just for feeling for stuff. Once you can break a little bit from your personality, you might realize maybe some of the ordinary things are great. Maybe ordinary music is great. Maybe ordinary restaurants are great. Maybe I'm limiting myself by having to be so extraordinary, or have relationships that are extraordinary. Maybe ordinary relationships maybe are the best. Okay. And maybe I'm painting myself into a corner, you might say, by having to choose everything that's extraordinary. Okay. They typically have problems with self-indulgence and self-pity. I've been dealt an unfair hand. You don't know what it's like. Let me tell you about my tragedy. Let me tell you about how hard it was for me growing up. You can't imagine. And, you know, let's see, which one is the counter for? I should know this, right? The self-preservation for. The one that can look a little sunny, upbeat, positive, right? But underneath is that dark stuff. Has realized I can't really focus the attention on myself and my own pain, but they still are focused on pain and tragedy and suffering, maybe other people's, or suffering in the world, or pain in the world. At their best, healthy 4s are inspired and highly creative, able to renew themselves and transform their experiences. Renew themselves, transform their experiences. I don't know exactly what that means. I think I'd have to think about that some more. I would say, you know, 4s bring the very thing they're looking for. I love that concept with every type. You know, 4s want to belong. They want to feel valuable. They want to fit in. They want to be understood. They often feel misunderstood. They want to stand out. Okay, what do 4s bring? They make me feel like that. When I'm going through a problem or a difficulty or feel misunderstood, a 4 who is healthy will help me see that I belong. No matter what I've done or who I am, that they will accept me the way I am. If I'm honest with myself and with them, they will accept me and help me to feel like I belong and help me to feel like I fit in, and help me to see the beauty, even in the tragedies of what life has been. 4s really help. They're kind of the restoration people within us, you know, that see the broken and then can see the beauty in the brokenness and help us to see the beauty in the brokenness. And I think 4s, when they're healthy, they help the rest of us feel like we belong and are understood. You know, a lot of us feel misunderstood, come from backgrounds that are less than perfect. And a healthy 4 I think would be a great person to talk to because they're going to help you work through your difficulties and hardships and help you feel like you've been heard and you're understood. Okay, well, obviously we didn't make it through all of the types because I talk too much. And so we're just going to limit this to types 1 through 4. And then that means I'll have to make some more videos on introductions to the other types. Oh, one last thing about 2s. If you're still with me, God love you if you're still with me. But one thing about 2s, one of the ways that I think 2 could look like an 8 is when they're going through hard times, they just, muster up this determination and go through that hard time like an 8. I just thought about that the other day. Okay, well, thank you guys for checking out this video. I hope it's helpful, and as always, be present to life. Don't wait for life to be what you think it should be before you show up to it. Go ahead and show up to it now, the way it is, and find the joy in the ordinary. All right, guys, take care. I'll see you next time.